Judy Garland, show number 2, commercial, take 1.
I hear music, mighty fine music. The sweetest sounds I'll ever hear are still inside my head. The kindest words I'll ever know are waiting to be said. The most entrancing sight of all is yet for me to see. And the dearest love in all the world is waiting somewhere for me. It's waiting somewhere for me. The most entrancing sight I know is yet for me to see. And the greatest band in all the world is waiting somewhere for me. Is waiting right here. There is work to be done, but it's more like a barrel of fun when you sing with the number one band in the land. Let the trumpets blow. Come along, let's go. Hey, leader. Say, leader. Count Basie, strike up the band.
Oh, Connor, you froze.
So,
You froze there, Connor.
can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Uh,
That's just what?
oh, I'm being attacked by a fly. Hold on.
I actually can't see you. You've like you two are frozen on my computer. Oh, you're back now. I know that hair was all the rage. Ooh, someone's. Have I frozen? Because
You're froze.
Your face is frozen.
Like
You
this.
two are frozen on mine, but I can hear you. Oh, you're back now.
Oh, you were like this, Sarah.
It was a perfect freeze face.
All set?
All set.
All set. Okay. Hello, Garland Gabbers. Welcome to another episode of the Garland Gab. Hi. And some of you may remember that we've done a previous podcast on the first episode, episode 1 of the Judy Garland Show. And this episode we're going to talk about episode 2 of the Judy Garland show. We will discuss, dissect, etc., everything about episode 2 of the Judy Garland show. As always, Carly and Sarah join myself, Connor. Hi. And I guess we'll just kind of jump right in. So the background to episode 2 is episode 1 wrapped, and they took a week production break before diving into episode 2 pre-production. First week of July 1963. And this episode featured Count Basie, Mel Torme, Judy
Henske.
We'll talk about later, and Jerry Van Dyke. And I know we all kind of have a few things to say about the run up to this episode, so I'll just open it straight up to everybody who would like to jump in.
We all want to.
Not all at once, like.
Do you want me to start us?
Yeah.
As Connor said, they took a week break after all that pre-production lead up to the first episode. Judy professionally was on a big high. She was looking great, she was sounding great, and she was in a good place. But Judy didn't have a very restful week. Stop with the Sarah already. Sorry. Judy didn't have a very restful week because despite it being, it being a good period for her, and she was very excited professionally, she was in good form. There was a lot going on behind the scenes. Sid had moved back in with her around the time of the first episode. He was now moved out, but he was still very much in the picture. He had become wise to what Fields and Beagleman were doing to Judy, which was basically embezzling her. I'll let one of you go through exactly how they embezzled her with the car and the money and everything. And basically, there was also threats of a photograph having her stomach pumped, and she was ordered to pay for that. Now, Judy was in a bit of a rock and a hard place, really, because she knew all this was going on, but she was in such a good place professionally. She really, really wanted the show to work. She didn't want any bad press, so she chose to just brush it under the carpet, basically. But unfortunately, at the time, she was still pretty besotted with David Beagleman. I don't know why. And there was an incident where he should have come around. This was around the time where she was having late night phone calls. There was an incident where he was supposed to be around hers for the evening, but Bob Wynn was there instead. I can carry on telling the story, but I don't know if one of you want to pick up from me.
You can keep going.
You sure?
Keep going. Yeah.
So Judy, a lot of Judy's suicide attempts weren't actually suicide attempts. They were either for dramatics to get out of a situation, like there's an example in Me and My Shadows where she threatens to jump out the window. That was purely to get out of paying the bill. She was an actress. It's the only way she knew how to get out of situations blatantly, and yet they were for attention sometimes, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Bob Wynn adored Judy. He was there with her, and his story was, I will get it in Rainbow's End. So she was waiting for Beagleman. He said the calls keep coming, he's going to be late, then maybe later, and finally that he's probably not going to come. The news, according to Wynn, caused Judy to become extremely distraught, and she began crying. This was waiting for David Beagleman. She grabbed something that looked like pills to me and said, "You don't think I'll do it, do you?" I said, "Yeah, I think you'll do it." She took them. I leaped over the couch, put my knee on her throat and began to pull the stuff out. She was crying hysterically. I hit her. I don't know whether I should maybe cut that out after the whole thing with the Victor Fleming Wizards of Oz thing. Okay, that he hit her. I don't know.
Yeah.
He kind of needed to be hit to be brought back into reality. Like
Yeah.
that was the reasoning for it. It wasn't anything malicious.
Yeah, exactly. Time went on and it was obvious that Beagleman was not coming. It got to be about 2 or 3 and she wanted a doctor for her back. I said, we'll get a doctor, but we'd better go to CBS and get a doctor to come down there. The next day was tape day. So this mirrors the Ford Star Jubilee slightly, except it didn't affect her as much because we'll soon find out why. Well, one, because he actually pulled the pills out of her mouth for a start. She said, we'll get a doctor down there. The next day was tape day. If the doctor put her to sleep in her house, I knew we'd never get her on stage. I got her into CBS about 3 or 4 in the morning. I called George about 6 and said, George, get your arse down here. I'm fading fast. I got her downstairs in the basement. By this time, everything kicked in and she was gone. This next part, typical Judy. I'll just carry on reading it as it's written in the book. The incident did have a trace of humour. Bob Wynne goes on to say, I put her on a film cart and pushed her through the halls of CBS. A watchman looked down at her, looked up at me, and just kept on walking, shaking his head. So it should be dramatic, but you know, there's just this image of Judy getting wheeled along a film cart. And then it goes on to say the seemingly indestructible Garland bounced back within a matter of only a few hours to take the Basie show. George came over and by God, she was on stage that day singing her arse off. Still, although she was occasionally tardy for rehearsal calls at this point, Wynne stresses she was always there. Frank Waldham adds she was really pretty regular. I can remember her being an hour late to rehearsal, but listen, we used to call her the legend to her face. It went with the territory. There is further things in the book about how reliable she was, but as Carly always says, she wasn't human. Anyone who's seen this episode, Judy is in the form of her life. How did she do it?
I was just about to say that. Like her voice is in top form in this episode. She looks beautiful. She looks so young in a lot of those close-up shots too. And to think that this had just happened the night before, or the morning pretty much before.
What I'd love to know though is, because this is the first episode where the dress rehearsal and the final show were both taped so that they could hop back and forth for the best performance from each. I'd love to know from that story, because it's not, well, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe you think it is clear, but I'd love to know, did this happen between the dress rehearsal on the 6th of July and the final taping on the 7th, or are we talking the 5th into the dress rehearsal, if you get me?
I believe it was after the dress rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually tape day.
The actual final taping day. Okay.
If I'm remembering right from reading the other week, I do believe that's what it was.
Okay.
But I think a lot of the fuss and Jews was actually from the tape day, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just Hey Look Me Over, or the trunk segment. The whole trunk segment is from the dress. And the duets, the Judy and Mel with Count Basie, was taped separately earlier in the week and played back to the studio audience at the time. I'm guessing because of the sound issues in the studio.
Someone just had a beep and buzzer go off.
My dishwasher finishing.
Is that me? Sorry. Oh, it's been a funny one already. We've only done 5 minutes.
I know.
I love it. But even still, like, the episode is so seamless. You would never be able to tell, which, if you didn't already know, you wouldn't be able to tell which one was filmed where and what had happened right before the taping, right?
Yeah, there's one bad edit. It's after one of Jerry Van Dyke's scenes, I think.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, they did do this a lot on the Judy Garland show, so I don't know whether it was deliberate, for spontaneity, but you just hear like cuts and all the crew were like starting to move about. But regarding the sequences, they work very well.
And I love that they, speaking of that, that they then decided to film both the dress rehearsal and the live taping. I love that they were able to do that because, as he says in Rainbow's End, it took a lot of pressure off of Judy for that one chance only kind of thing. And I think it made her a lot more comfortable with filming the show, because I know that was always one of her biggest fears with going on television, was that that's it. You only have the one chance to get it right. And that was something that she struggled a lot with, that fear that she couldn't do it. I didn't have anything else.
Yeah, I'm on my pause.
God above, this is going well, isn't it?
Oh, it's great. We should have to leave a lot of these little errors in, because they're so funny.
I will. I'll keep in as much as I can.
Speaking of flubbing lines, here we go.
Yeah, here we are. God, time it took on her 20 takes to say a line. What was I going to say about another thing in the Judy Garland show?
It wasn't the Jack Warner one, was it?
No. Can't remember now. Anyway.
It'll come back to you.
It'll come back to me and I'll go, just one more thing. Okie dokie. So shall we jump in and we'll go through the episode, I guess, song and scene by scene and song by song, and we'll discuss as we go along. As it says in Rainbow's End, I suppose, in complete contrast to the planned big overture and opening of episode 1, episode 2 opens up much more subdued. There's no applause. So the scene opens and it's an empty orchestra with these gorgeous sort of fancy Parisian rugs and Tiffany lamps and things. And Judy appears from the darkness in the background and sings "I Hear Music" very faintly off in the distance, and the camera goes in, goes in, goes in. And as she sings, the Count Basie Orchestra join in. And I have to say, I really think this is one of the greatest opening songs in all of the Judy Garland show, because it swells into Sweetest Sounds, where she joins the Count on the piano, and then there's the big finale and she's banging the piano and just soaring with the vocals. It's one of my most favourite performances ever, so out to the group.
Yeah, same. My notes, I've got she starts with no musical cue. She hits perfect pitch, perfect key, very quietly. She, to me, is leading the orchestra. She is the conductor to me with her voice.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's
like. But here's the thing. That's pre-recorded track she's singing to.
I know.
Which is
live.
amazing.
She's live, but they're pre-recorded, because that's one of my little things I have to point out about the amazing Count Basie Orchestra, but why they weren't utilised to the best during the show. But that's what it comes across like, is that she's conducting the orchestra, and they're all introduced one by one to their little part. Again, like episode 1, I love her hair in this, love her makeup, and I love a costume, which me and Connor have half got each of. My waistcoat didn't arrive in time, but Connor's got his on, so I've got my glittery pants and my shirt. Love the slap on the thing as well, on the piano. And I also want to mention the costume is they changed costume designers as well for this one, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because as much as we love Edith's head, am I jumping ahead, by the way? Have you got?
No, work away.
George Schlosser was not too keen on the constant blacks and browns, which I actually agree with, because loved the look in a 63 special and in episode 1. It was perfect for them. But it would have got pretty dreary if it had been like that every episode. She saw Judy's costumes as being in the background, not interfering. Where Ray, do you pronounce it Agayon? Agayon?
I wasn't even going to try to attempt that one.
And his assistant, Bob Mackey, they envisioned different costumes for different weeks and more glamour. They were fabulous, and I love this costume in this one.
It's stunning.
It is. And that opening number, I mean, I just have to agree with you, Connor. It's the greatest opening of her television series. And it always gives me chills to hear her just faintly in the background. I hear music. And it's worth mentioning as well, obviously the audience was told that they have to hold their applause. They are not allowed to react as she comes out from the dark. And I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, to have been in the audience that night and to have to restrain from clapping or making any kind of noise whatsoever, that would have been pretty hard.
It would, especially if it's like the first time you see it. It's like
Yeah. And one little other thing that I wanted to point out, just a little observation that I loved and had to rewind a couple of times because I just thought it was so cute. There's a part just after the drummer joins the orchestra and she kind of looks to the side and she just faintly giggles and it's picked up. And I don't know, like, because it's pre-recorded, right? But but she actually giggles.
Well, she's live.
She's singing.
Oh, it's the orchestra that's pre-recorded. Yeah. Right. I'm so sorry. Okay, don't.
And if you watch the drummer close enough, he's not actually hitting anything.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Yeah, because they wouldn't be able to, because obviously Judy's live. So
again, I'm just assuming, we're coming to him in a few minutes anyway, but I'm assuming Mel Torme or somebody is off camera, like conducting the whole thing. You know what I mean? Even though it's pre-recorded, the orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
It's basically Judy's doing karaoke. Have we anything else to say about the opening?
I don't think so.
The only thing is that it's a shame that Count Basie and his orchestra weren't allowed to play live because of the dreadful sound situation in the studio. Because he was I laughed when she said singing with Count Basie was like having a gun to your head. He was like a top class star. Unlike the others that were on this episode. You know, he was class. He was a class act. So that's just a shame. But it doesn't detract from my enjoyment because I still get to, even though he's not playing them live, they're not playing them live, I still get to hear his lovely music and Judy singing to it.
100%. And I think it's even in Rainbow's End as well, that when she was appearing with someone equal to her, it propelled her up even more, you know. I mean, with Streisand, with Count Basie, with Lena Horne, with, you know, anyone that was on her level, it brought out the best in her.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You can tell she loves singing with him.
Oh, 100%. And if anyone wants to hear or can find the performance from the JFK Stadium from 1968, it is the Count Basie band accompanying her on it. And even though it's 1968, so, you know, a little bit later, she's flying it in that one. So I think it's with the Count Basie band as well. Like, you know, was really getting her going. Well, I suppose from the sublime to the ridiculous.
Oh.
After the wonders of that opening, it goes to the opening titles, and then we come to the backstage area that only existed for the first few episodes. There's a kind of a backstage area with Judy's dressing room and then the dressing room of the guest on that particular week's episode. And Jerry Van Dyke explains to Judy that he wants to join the Count Basie band and plays banjo in the band. Well,
Is this the point, or is that later on where he puts the bulb in his mouth?
that's later.
Yeah, I thought so. Is this the point where he's getting his words mixed up? He does that all the time, doesn't he?
That's a bit later.
Yeah.
This is where he's Mel Tormé comes into the scene a little bit later with his practice pad for the drums, and they're like trying to do a little duet together, and he's like, and Mel is like,
yeah, I've not got anything to say.
it's a heap of shit, basically, let's be honest.
All I can say is poor Jerry Van Dyke. Like, this poor sap, nobody knew what to do with him. He didn't know what to do with the material that he was given. It was just such like forced humor. And I mean, Judy loved humor, and you can even tell that she's annoyed with it. Like, you can just read it on her, like it's written all over her face as she enters that scene while he's playing it, you know, and she's just like, you know, you can just tell that she does not want to do this scene. And for it to have such a great opening like that, to then transition to this ridiculous scene is just, oh God, they kind of ruined it.
As I was saying, I don't think I said it since we started filming. If I did, just delete this. But this episode is a perfect example of when the Judy Garland show got it right. It was amazing. The musical moments in Judy are some of the best on this of the entire series. When it was bad, it was dismal. And I do have a soft spot for the first 5 episodes in general. But this one was aired before Jerry Van Dyke was removed. I believe that's why, like in some of the other ones, his scenes were cut. A lot of the scenes were trimmed down or cut out. So he's still quite heavily featured in this one, unfortunately. With the likes of the first episode, quite a bit of his material was cut before it was aired. It's very confusing the way they broadcast them in a completely different order.
And then, like, they changed Jerry. Like, after the 5th episode, he becomes like the television know-it-all, trying to teach Judy what to do on television. Like,
which is even worse.
Which is worse.
Yeah, you're like crying from. I'll go back to being a bumbling idiot.
Yeah. Like, I think the idea of a bumbling idiot as a sidekick is fine, but if it was just executed better.
I was just going to say, I get what they were trying to do with his character, but the material that he was given was just so god-awful. Judy should have written it for him. Like, knowing the type of humor that she had, she would have made it good.
Shouldn't need a script.
No.
No. Well, as I say, at the end of this scene, Jerry and Mel Tormé sort of have a bit of a chat, and Mel says he has to go off and do his number, which brings us into Mel Tormé's solo, which is Fascinating Rhythm, where he plays a load of drums.
Spit it out, Connor.
I'm not a fan, I have to say. I'm not a fan of him at all. In this one and later on as well, I don't know whether like pretentious is the right word or not, but it feels very pretentious. Like, he's playing to the camera. When I watch him, I just think you're a smarmy, slimy git, and it just comes across. No, he's a good singer. Like, I'm not saying he's not a good singer. He is. But yeah, I'm just like,
He's not sincere.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I like it when he croons. I think his voice is nice. I do think he was talented. He wrote some good arrangements on the show. But I'm not a fan of this number either. And I do like this song. I said I like him when he croons. I don't like him when he tries to hit the high notes and you can see him straining. You can sort of, fascinate me. I'm sorry. But he pulls that face and everything. But yeah, he is very, very much playing. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. There's another song he sings in a much later episode of the Judy Garland show that I don't like either.
Is that the motorbike one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's when he comes on in the motorbike and sings The Party's Over with Judy, doesn't he? On show 11. And she sits on it with him.
Yes.
That's actually one of my all-time favourite numbers. It's the Coming Home one. Does he have a motorbike for that as well, does he?
He might too, yeah.
Oh, possibly then, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, that fly is back again.
Fucking gnat.
We've got plants in here, as you can see behind me, and there's more over there. And I swear to God, these little fruit flies.
They're guests appearing on the show.
Appearing on the show. I'll be like Judy in a minute, and I'll be like,
oh, I don't have anything to say on that number other than what you guys have said. I mean, those were my observations too. He just has a swarmy face. Like, he has a very punchable face. I don't know if we can add that in, but
yeah,
it's just.
And I do think, I mean, I don't know whether we're a bit jaded because we know what he did. But you can see that, again, you can see his ego there.
100%. Like, if there was no ego, why call out her mistake on the Christmas song in the Christmas episode and go, close? Like, I know he wrote the song, but like, shut up, it's Judy Garland. Let her sing the wrong words if she wants. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this episode, the tension's not there at this point. They're working well together. I think they were enjoying it to an extent, and they do. When they sang together on, well, we're not to that yet, but they did sing together really well. Even though she, upstages them, but it's a shame how it turns out, and you can see it in every episode he appears on. You can see the tension building a little bit more.
Yeah.
So even by like show 11, she's accidentally calling him Mort.
Accidentally. Well, moving on from Mel Torment, it's an inside joke. We go back to the Sublime, and Judy joins the Count for an absolutely gorgeous rendition of a song I have never heard outside of this episode before, Memories of You. And the Count is sort of providing an organ back, I don't know what that was, but playing piano, I guess, providing a sort of an organ accompaniment to this song. Yeah, this is a gorgeous moment on the show, and what I love is she starts so soft and quite low, but by the end she's really up high in those notes, and her face and the way it's filmed, the expressions on her face, it's just, and I love the photo of her rehearsing the song with the cigarette in her hand.
I'm always so partial to the songs that Judy sings in a very soft voice, because we are so used to her just belting it out and it reaching the back of a big auditorium, but the fact that she can do both, there's just something about those really soft songs that just oh God. And you're so right, those close-ups, they're
I've got such a soft spot for the soft voice as well. She's quite high in her head voice, isn't she?
Yeah, by the end, it's high, like, yeah.
The range on that girl.
Because I know we've done the voice podcast, like, she's not known for her range, but she has a good range.
Yeah.
It's like Suzanne pointed it out, didn't she? As Suzanne said, I was actually listening. Actually, sometimes I listen to our podcasts in bed to relax me. I was listening to the Voice one and then everybody singing. She said she camped in a range. I think especially during MGM. Because they didn't always write the songs in a higher range because of the type she sang. You know, swing and a jazz and, you know, ballads. But
well, I read somebody saying something similar about Edith Piaf, who Judy is often kind of paralleled with, that she sang in a kind of a range that she camped in for all of her songs as well. So maybe it's just a hallmark of great singers.
Yeah, do what you do best. But the likes of us who you know, visit her work outside of what she's known for, commonly we do see her doing other things outside of her comfort zone.
And of course, she nails it every time.
Oh, of course.
Well, that's the thing with Judy, because we'll talk about not hitting the right notes later on in the podcast. Actually, even if she, it's not often she didn't hit the right note, but it didn't matter with her.
No,
because she was still singing the meaning of the song.
And I think it was best summed up. I think it's in the Portrait of Art and Anecdote book. The conductor of the 1969 final shows in Copenhagen, I think he's quoted as saying she never hit a note that wasn't musical. So even if she did miss a note, it's not like she was flat or sharp. It was just maybe slightly off, but it was still a musical note.
I don't think, has anybody ever heard her hit the flat note?
No, I've heard her. She starts Sunny Side of the Street on episode 10 with Ray Bulger in the wrong key, but she switches it in like 2 seconds to the right key.
But there are a few moments. Is it A Pretty Girl Milking Her Cow, or is it Better Luck Next Time on the trunk segment? I think she.
Oh yeah.
One of them, she comes in.
Yeah.
Off key.
I think it's the Better Luck Next Time. She's like, better luck next time. I think she just started it a bit too high.
But she's still not flat, is she?
No, she's not flat. I've never heard, I think you're right. I don't think I've ever heard her flat. It's something I've often wondered, you know, once or twice on her performances of Swanee, she does the Swanee and then she goes, ah, sure. I'm like, why is she going, ah? Because I've often wondered, because it doesn't sound, I was wondering if she felt she was flat or something. Maybe she felt she was.
I thought it was hard to get
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, the way she does the growl sometimes, I just thought it was like, I'm really belting this out.
Yeah.
I'm a monster, you know.
Anything else on Memories of You before we move along?
No, it's just gorgeous.
Very
different as well.
Very different for her. And it's the one and only time she's ever sang that song.
And I like the turntable. Didn't she make a joke about that?
Gave her seasickness or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's effective.
Yeah. And it was effective in episode 1 for When the Sun Comes Out as well.
Yeah.
Moving back, again, from the sublime back to the ridiculous, we have more backstage in the pretend backstage area, business of Jerry wanting to join Count Basie's band, and he's decided to make his banjo an electric banjo. So Jerry has one of those star show business mirrors with the light bulbs in it, and he unplugs the light bulbs and figures out that he can light up one of the light bulbs by putting it in his mouth, which has got to be not safe.
Don't try this at home, kids.
I just get Addams Family vibes off that, Uncle Fester.
And Jerry has, I don't know how, but seemingly modified his banjo to be electric, and he plugs it into the light socket that he's unplugged the bulb from. And Judy, sort of warns him against it, and he electrocutes himself when he goes to play it.
This is probably one of the most frustrating skits I think I've ever seen on that show. It is just so stupid. The only redeeming quality is I did laugh when Judy said that it was an electric lollipop.
Yeah.
That was about the only time I laughed. Everything else was so cheesy when he does the strum after it's been plugged in and it goes inverted and and then the smoke billows up. It's just, oh God, just stop.
I did also laugh, and you could tell she couldn't be bothered, do you know what I mean? But she still didn't make it funny when he puts it in his mouth, the light bulb, I mean. It doesn't light up, and she goes, "That's remarkable."
Yeah.
Completely dry. But when he actually gets electrocuted, the effects on that are like so amateur. Like, we could do better. I mean, I know they didn't have the technology we have now, but we could do better effects on our iMovies and Wii videos.
Yeah, but like this is the era of I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched, and they were able to do decent special effects.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm so sorry. One more thing. I just thought of something with the memories of you. I'm taking it back. I knew there was something I meant to say. Talking about this time era, this was still the time of segregation. It was not passed as law or passed out of law until 1964 by Lyndon Johnson, so the following year. So that Judy appeared on national television in 1963 with a person of colour holding his hand, I just say, like, well feckin' done.
I meant to say that during the opening sequence that we were talking about. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you.
Very
And
well.
he wasn't the only one she appeared with either.
No.
So I don't want to bring this back up, but any of those cancelling Judy saying she was racist need to do a bit of research.
100%. Lena Horne, Diane Carroll, Count Basie, Sammy Davis. Well, I know she appeared after a little bit later, but anyway.
She pees on the palace stage with John Bubbles. Again, it's later, it's after the law, but you know.
She clearly wasn't.
Or when.
Sorry, going back to Jerry electrocuting himself.
Should have stayed electrocuted.
I know.
Sorry. I don't mean the actual person, the real person. I mean the Jerry Van Dyke character of the Judy Garland show.
And it's just like during that sequence where he is inverted and he's supposed to be electrocuted, you can see his face and he's just like, there's no emotion on his face. Like, oh God. Anyway, that's all I have.
Well, following on from that, we have a dance number, Shiny Stockings, which is not featuring any of our stars or our main star. It's just pure the dancers of the Judy Garland show. Any thoughts on this? It's cute, like little dance number.
It's what they call in Bali a divertissement.
Oh.
So it's a dance number in the middle of something for no other reason than for entertainment purposes.
Mm-hmm.
They've got them in all the big valleys, Swan Lake and the Nutcracker. They're not a part of the story. They're just making them like pretty patterns, showing off dancers. It's okay. That's my opinion from someone with a bit of dance knowledge. I don't know why it's there except to show off the dancers. I appreciate showing off the dancers. I'm always all for that, but I'm not too keen on the choreographers on these early ones. I will get more into that. I much prefer Piece of Gennaro, but yeah, it's okay. So there. I will say one thing though, that I love the voluptuous figures on the dancing girls. I think they have like got gorgeous. You know, it's not that whole like you've got to be stick thin thing. So I do like that.
It's good for entertainment. I am partial to the dance number that comes later though.
Oh God, yeah. Following the dance number, then we're back to Jerry and his antics. And this is where he can't get his words correct. He's trying to introduce Judy. What's her second name, Sarah?
Hensky.
Hensky. He's trying to
can't look
introduce
at the
Judy
movement.
Hensky. And it's just more nonsense.
He's going on that Judy's getting changed. And the thing is, I know she changes into trousers for the dance number, but I'm wondering if they weren't, you know, the number, the Hair and Mel with Count Basie, you know, I've got my love to keep you warm and everything. She's still in a skirt for that, in a dress. So I don't know whether they weren't sure where to insert that at this point, because it was, you know, filmed earlier on in the week, because he said Judy's changing and she doesn't change for the next number.
No.
So I'm presuming he's talking about the trousers she changes into. And they were going to have that. But why should I even like try and be logical about this?
I don't think there is any logic. I think it was just...
Judy's changing. No, I mean, not Judy Hensky, Judy Garland. I mean, changing her clothes, she's not changing. Or she's a great singer. Judy Hensky, not Judy Garland. Oh, I mean, Judy Garland's a good singer. She's a great singer. Oh my God.
Yep. It's just painful.
It is.
Just painful. And he
And his face.
doesn't, so he messes up I can't remember exactly what he said. He says like here, there, or instead of hi there, or something like that. And doesn't he do that exact same bit in episode 1? Except he changes Judy Garland's name. Like, it's the same bit. Like, anyway.
I suppose, nevertheless, he introduces Judy Hensky and she comes on and she sings God Bless the Child. I don't really know what to say next, to be quite honest about it. It's...
I know, as you said, it's not bad, but I just love Billie Holiday singing God Bless the Child. I think his voice is not, I'm not a massive fan of folk singers. I do like Joan Baez. I do like her. As Steve Sanders says, Judy Hensky was a bit of an imitation of her. Although I don't see any sort of similarities except for the folk thing. She was very popular in a day, and there was even talk of her being a series regular.
Judy and Judy? Huh?
Interesting that she doesn't appear with Judy on this.
Oh God, yeah, thank God.
I don't think that was anything to do with Judy Garland's look. I sound like Jerry Van Dyke now, but I wouldn't be surprised if Judy, and I wouldn't blame Judy Garland, this is the saying no, it's, you know, we're gonna look ridiculous, you know, up here and down there, and they sing very different.
She's a very tall lady, Judy Hensky.
Maybe that's why they didn't put them together in any skits, because it would just look so unbalanced.
To the ridiculous already. I mean, it looks ridiculous with Mel Torme standing next to her, and there's a part where she's, I mean, I'm jumping ahead to the next part, so we'll let you get to it, but she's singing and pulling all these faces and doing all these like little as she's singing, and Mel Torme's looking up at her like that. And Jerry Van Dyke looks petrified. He's like that.
Yeah.
And she's going.
And the other thing too, they've got her in heels.
Yeah.
So she's already a tall woman to begin with, and they put the poor woman in heels to like either accentuate, or maybe they just weren't thinking at all, but it really accentuates her height, and it just makes it.
So yeah, you know, the comedy New Girl that had what's her face in it, who plays Rachel's mum, that's the hairstyle she has, but it looks ridiculous on her.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and it's not a great wig. It's a wig and it's not a great wig.
No.
Why is she in a wig?
I don't know. You can see it when she's flinging her hair back and forth. Oh, well, no, we're just
honest.
Well, you're right, Sarah. I mean, after God Bless the Child, we go into, it's meant to be Peter, Paul and Mary, but it's Peter, Paul and Irving.
Judy
Hensky.
Right. Well, she introduces it in a very, very, like, I can't even describe the manner she introduces it. It's just so, and she's talking about the blues. You can tell she's reading off a cue card or whatever. It's like me when I read out. And she say, we're going to teach you about the blues now. And then they go into a medley of songs that are not the blues. Okay, here I go with me rant. And as I said before, she's pulling all these faces. I know Lena Hall pulled faces. I'm doing it now, you know, all this. And she's rocking back and forward. They're there, like you've got Mel Torme down there, here, up here. Jerry somewhere here, like looking petrified of her. And the singing her She Was a type song. And then they get to a bit about a lemon tree. What's that?
No idea.
And Jerry Van Dyke's coming and talking through it, and it's as if he's getting sick the more he goes, and they're still like welling in the background, and he's meant to be doing a blues speech about a lemon tree, and he's just going sorry, that's his face, sorry. Yeah, I can't even remember what he says, and then he seems to be like as if he's getting sick by the end, and then he's just like why is it in there? What's the point of it? And then, sorry, I'm going to take over. I need to talk about that final note. Can I please?
Yes.
So this is where I went from a rant to getting absolutely hysterical. You've got two singers there. Okay, Jenny Van Dyke wasn't a singer. There's a last note that not one of them hit. And when we were talking about flat, they're all flat. And I've not actually got a great ear, or I don't know about these things, but one, they all come in on a different time. And so one comes in, then another comes in, another comes in, and it looks hideous because they do this thing where they're all running around in a little circle, like ducked down like little like creeping rats or something, and they hit this last note all the time and all flat, and it is, why is that on the Judy Garland show? I'm sorry.
I don't understand what, like, Jerry is not a singer, and that's fine. He was just joining in or whatever. But like the other two are meant to be singers. Like, I don't know.
It's okay. I said singers will often hit a wrong note at time, but for all three of them, not to only not hit the right note, but to be completely flat and out of time, I'm only guessing it wasn't rehearsed.
Yeah, it could well be.
Mm-hmm.
Or they all thought, they all did it on purpose because the skit was just so ridiculous.
There are no words. This is the thing. There are no words for this.
I think I've said enough, and you might have to cut out some of those funny faces because I dread to think what they look like.
It's funny.
I have to be honest, like that number, I just kept looking at my phone. Like it did not hold me, and I just, what? Like,
no, I can't bear it. I don't watch it. Usually I kind of like force myself to watch it for this podcast.
Yeah, same. I skip over it most of the time.
So that's when I decided to have a rant and a joke about it.
Back to the sublime from the absolute, I was going to say a naughty word there, bloody ridiculous
Say it, Connor.
bullshit that we just had. Count Basie Orchestra makes its way on stage, and Judy and Mel come together for a very, very fabulous 3-song medley. Starts with Judy doing I've Got My Love to Keep Me Warm. Mel does Don't Dream of Anyone But Me. And then they both do April in Paris plus reprise, or One More Time. And I think Sarah has things to say about this as well.
I feel like I'm jumping in on all of them here.
Go for it.
no.
This is my favourite part of the whole episode. It's not as like stylish as the opening, or as
Yeah.
memorable as that. And some of, you know, the other moments are a lot more like classy and stylish and better. But it just makes me feel happy and warm.
Mhm.
I know, sorry, saying that when she sings I've got my love to keep me warm. She is in tip-top form here. Again, she looks absolutely amazing. And I actually like Mel's solo in this one as well. I actually really like it. But I've got my love to keep me warm. I love that she just hits those notes without even trying. She just hits them. And I feel like she's so casual and so laid back that she throws it away, but to good effect. And this is a little silly one, but I love the way she says it. You know, when she says, "What do I care?"
I was going to say this.
Care. Love it.
She goes like, it's like, what do I care? It's just.
Yeah, I just love it. And then, and I love the way she ruffles the hair. That's a trademark Judy thing when she's hitting a high note. And then April in Paris, when she starts it. Her voice is so warm and so, how can I describe it? Soothing. It's absolutely gorgeous. She's singing very pretty, because I know like when she's belting, it's not always pretty for some people. And my favourite part is she twice outholds Mel Torme on the final note. And my favourite bit is on the reprise. He clearly can't hold it, and she just whacks him on the chest, and then grabs that other hand as she just carries the notes on with ease. We'll shut up now. You two, please talk. Please.
I'm only echoing what you've said, and I completely agree. 1000%. Like, I listen to her singing "I've Got My Love to Keep Me Warm" every Christmas, because it's kind of a Christmassy song as well. And it is like, it's just, what do I care? And she's just hitting these notes like no bother to her. And the April in Paris is the same. And Mel seemingly wasn't able to hold notes very long, because when they do their trolley song later on, now I know she holds this ridiculous note that she's miming at the end of that trolley song in one of the later episodes, but he carries on with "Now I Need a Shine," and he goes at the end. So I don't know, he didn't have the same lung power as her.
One of my most
Fine.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's fine that he hasn't got the same lung power or capacity, because the different kinds of singers. So why try and do it? Is he trying to prove a point?
Probably ego.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go up against someone with 3 lungs, right, Sarah?
Of course not.
But one of my favorite parts of that whole medley is that, as someone who has watched so many numbers with Judy over and over again, you start to pay attention to what's going on in the background and how other people are reacting to Judy. And one thing I love about that number is that you can see Count Basie's face pretty much the entire way through. And I love watching him react to her. And I think it's in this one, there's a smile that goes on his face, and he just looks like he's just thoroughly enjoying what he's doing with her, what he's hearing, and he just seems like the sweetest man in that one little take. And that always stood out to me. I just love his reaction. I love being able to see him in the back.
I agree. I actually had that on my notes, but I'm glad I didn't mention it. I forgot to mention it because it means you could, but no, I agree. When they're singing April in Paris, he's just slotted in the middle of them.
Yeah.
And he's just got the biggest smile. It's lovely. And it's genuine as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That's all I have to say about it. Just watch it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I just, it does. It just makes me feel warm inside this part.
The next scene of the episode 2 is Jerry finally joining the Count Basie band for like a little thing. And I'm actually skipping this. It's nothing. It's just a stupid continuation of this thing about him wanting to join the band. And they let him in and they do a bit of a banjo number. That's it.
All I'll say is Count Basie shouldn't have had to go through that.
No.
And he was a good sport for doing it.
Coming to the climax, I guess, of the episode now. As Sarah mentioned earlier, Judy's sort of waistcoat dress now becomes a waistcoat pantsuit. And we get, thanks to Carly, what we now know as Judy's Austin Powers dance. Where she dances to, it's Bossa Nova, isn't it?
Yeah.
Soul Bossa Nova.
Soul Bossa Nova. Blame it on the Bossa Nova. And this never fails to give me a smile from here to here when I watch it. Carly, take it away.
It's one of the numbers that I watch the absolute most in the Judy Garland show. I love it. And, you know, so I grew up with the Austin Powers films. I loved that series so much. And then when I first started watching through the Judy Garland show, and then I came across that number, it just, what? It just, mind blown. I just love it. I love it, love it, love it. Her moves, they just blend so well with the song. I mean, it's been a while since she's done a choreographed routine, right? I mean, she did some on episode 1 as well with Mickey Rooney, but this is more like, this is her dance number. And she just does it so brilliantly. I love the other dancers around her. I love watching them when I can't, or when I manage to take my eyes off of her. I love as well, one observation, the dancer who starts the number, the close-up of this dancer, she's the blonde girl.
Sharon Shaw.
Thank you. She looks so much like Charlize Theron. Did anybody else notice that?
She's always reminds me of someone. I've never been able to figure out why.
Yeah, Charlize Theron. That's immediately who I thought of as soon as I saw that.
Yeah, she's the one who's always quite prominent, and she talks a bit about Judy in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, believe it or not, I saw Austin Powers films before I saw this, because I said I came to the Judy Garland show quite late. I love it too. It's it always makes me smile. I just smile. You can tell Judy's having a ball. It's very 60s. It's very of its time. I like the choreography. It fits for what it is. Again, I didn't think it was great choreography, but it fits, if that makes sense. Again, I keep bringing them up. I would have been interested to see what Peter Gennaro would have done with that tune. Yeah, well, I've got myself. These two moves that I love. She does a little move. It's kind of like a cross between, it's kind of like a forward part of bourrée instead of going behind, sides, over. She kind of does it, but it's like a bit of a Susie Q. It's the bit where she does twist with the click.
Oh, yeah.
It's like accent. I really like that with the accent on the music. And then the bit where she does like a bit of a mambo.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely love that bit. Or then when she's just standing there shimmying. Don't know whether you've noticed the end lift was fluffed.
Yeah.
I noticed.
Yes.
I don't know whether it was Judy, or I don't know whether they didn't get hold of a prop, because you could tell they were supposed to jump straight into the lift. I've seen those lifts done a few times. I don't know whether they don't hold it properly or she hesitates, because it does look like she sort of shakes out of it a bit.
Yeah.
And then they come and grab her again and pick her up and salvage her. That always interests me.
I noticed that too. Her legs kind of go out a little when she's actually pulled up, and I think she was scared.
I do think it was her, because probably they were professional dancers. They would have been used to doing that. Lifts, I couldn't stand lifts either when I was dancing. It used to freak me out. So she probably was a bit, didn't really want to get swept up. And so it does make me wonder, was that M pose where she's there with her legs out. So was that supposed to be the end pose, or was it supposed to be something different?
I always assumed they were meant to pick her up and she was meant to be fully standing, you know, rather than like almost sitting with the legs out.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Mm.
My favourite bit is when I don't know, am I reading too much into it, but I feel as if she's trying to tip the hat a bit to do a kind of a get happy thing with it, but it doesn't really move.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's very quick, isn't it? Very subtle.
It's very subtle because
Yeah.
I think it moves because then she does knock it back a bit, like, but it just didn't do what she wanted it to do, I think.
Mm.
She just looked like she was having just the time of her life doing that number. Just the way that she's bouncing across the stage and just, she really was having just a great time.
Yeah, I do feel as well like she improvised some of it as well. You know, the bit where she does the twirls in and out.
Yeah.
I feel like she was possibly supposed to do something different there, and she just went with her own little thing.
I think so
But I could be
too.
wrong.
And there's another little move she does right around that part, and I've seen her do it a couple of times. How do I explain it? It's kind of like a little box step kind of a thing that she almost does. She throws it in. It's in Get Happy on the Andy Williams show and a couple of other places as well.
Yeah.
She kind of moves forward in a box step almost and back. I think it's just a kind of an improv step that I think she just threw it in,
Probably.
you know.
But yeah, I first saw a clip of this on the second Hollywood Greats, the one with Jonathan Ross in 2001, 2002.
Oh yeah.
And I hadn't seen the Judy Garland show at that point, and it just a clip came on, and I was like, "You can't! Oh my God, she's dancing to Austin Powers."
The only thing she was missing at the end was groovy, baby.
Any more comments or thoughts on Judy's Austin Powers dance?
It just makes me smile.
Good enough for me too. The episode ends, of course, as each episode always does, with her born in a trunk segment. So Judy out on the runway, standing at her upright trunk, and she gives us a performance here of A Cottage for Sale into Hey Look Me Over, which is actually a Lucille Ball song from Wildcat, a Broadway song. And I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but for me, the metamorphosis from the end of A Cottage for Sale into Hey Look Me Over is just the heartbreak on her face at the end of A Cottage for Sale, and almost before your eyes, it changes into joy for Hey Look Me Over. I see Carly, go Carly.
So that's one of the things that I wanted to mention in Cottage for Sale is that transition. Like, so when the camera is close up to her face, if you look closely, she's got tears in her eyes. It looks like she's crying. And then the camera pans out and she kind of goes before she starts over and does Hey Look Me Over. Now, so one of the observations that I thought of, the lyrics to A Cottage for Sale, they're very sad. It kind of symbolizes, it's implied the end of a marriage, a long relationship. They're selling the cottage, their home that they once had together. Sid moved out of her house the week before this happened. And I can't help but wonder if that's what she was channeling, because she would often channel real life experiences into her performances, i.e. Judgment at Nuremberg, her father, so on and so forth. Was she channeling what was happening at home with her own marriage into A Cottage for Sale? And is that why she really had to, it was really starting to affect her in the end? Or is she just a really great actress? Makes me wonder.
I reckon it's a bit of both.
Both, yeah.
Because she always, to be a great actress, she always brought a bit of a self in. I've got a cat on me near. But yeah, it's a heart-wrenching song, that one.
Yeah. Oh, it's devastating. It's a devastating song.
It's very similar, on a similar sort of level as, in show 25 when she sings Supper Time.
Yes.
Similar vibes to that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For anyone who doesn't know, definitely we were talking about the dress rehearsal being taped and the final tape, and this Born in a Trunk segment that we see is from the dress rehearsal. And there's another iconic moment, I suppose, in this when she does "Hey, look me over," and she stumbles over a word and then automatically amends the next sentence to "just in case you think I'll goof," and chuckles about it.
One of the things I absolutely love about that goof when she does stutter is in the middle before she sings her next line, she goes, "Oh boy." Oh my God. I mean, everybody knows this by now. It's her human moments that make me love her so much. And I love those little flubs and the little glimpses into the real her when she does that. Oh boy.
She was such an expert at thinking on her feet, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Considering she was so, well, people went on about how terrified and nervous she was. She's a complete pro.
That's what I was going to say earlier that I forgot.
One more thing.
Thinking on her feet, when she does The Boy Next Door later on in the series, and for some reason she has him living at 6135 Kensington Avenue instead of 51. But the lyrics, have her at 5133, he's at 5135. But when she does the 61, she changes her own one to 6133, so it's consistent. Anything else on A Cottage for Sale and Hey, Look Me Over?
I just want to say, whenever I hear Judy singing songs like "Hey, Look Me Over," show songs, it just makes me even more sad that she never did a Broadway show.
Yeah.
Because she definitely lays into this song.
I'm skipping over I Will Come Back because I'm coming back to it because I know Sarah has something to say about it. But the reason I'm skipping over it is I Will Come Back is the standard closing on all the episodes for her. But we actually have a few seconds of audio captured between Judy and Jerry after the episode has finished, after the credits have rolled. And it's just such a cute little moment because they talk about, oh my goodness. Was that me?
I'm sorry, that was me.
Okay. Because they talk about the little flub that she had, and it's just, it comes in, I think, mid-sentence or something, and you just hear Jerry kind of going, the lyric there on the last thing, what was that? And Judy goes, I don't know.
I don't think I've heard that. Where is that? It's at the... Is it on YouTube?
Did
No.
you watch the YouTube version? It's on the DVDs. Then it changes from audio to actually, you can see them on the stage. And she goes, well, I'm still singing the Mickey Rooney show. And then and the sweetest thing is she pulls George Schlatter on and says, let's bring on old George Schlatter. And you can tell he's so shy about coming on the stage. And he just goes, isn't she wonderful? Gives her a round of applause. And then they're walking off and he picks it up and carries it off.
For anyone who doesn't know, going back to I Will Come Back, which is Judy's closing song, almost every episode, the line as written is President Coolidge is a cousin of mine, but from this episode on, Judy substitutes in a different name each week. And Sarah, I think you have something to say.
Yeah, it's no biggie. It's just I just thought it'd be nice every time we do want to explain the name.
Sorry.
Story. No, just I thought we could make it a point to bring up every time she sings it what the name is. And for this one, it's Mary Miles Minter,
silent film actress.
Silent film actress who murdered some director. Where she pulled that one from, I don't know. I'm always, some of them, why she's picked them, because obviously Liza Minnelli, when Liza's there, the cameraman one, Hun Stromberg Jr., but I just wonder where on earth she pulled this from. She'd been reading an article or something that day,
Her mind, though, is just incredible as to what she can remember and stuff, if you watch her on like the Dick Cavett show interview or any of interviews or whatever, like she pulls these things up out of nowhere, and like, how have you remembered that? Or like, you know. Well, that concludes the scene by scene, song by song of the episode. However, there is one more, unfortunate thing that we've never been able to see or hear that was taped or recorded for this, and it's Judy's version of Witchcraft. As in those fingers through my hair song. I think Sarah had something on this.
Yeah, we don't know whether it was filmed or not, but there is a photograph of her performing it. I don't know whether it's on the dress rehearsal or the taping. So my theory, and I'm sticking to it even if I'm wrong, is that it was filmed and that it's missing somewhere and will be found one day.
Yeah.
But we don't even have an audio of it, so who knows? She could have just been rehearsing it, but that's my hope. But I would just love this song. I would just kill to hear, especially the form Judy was in on this show. I would kill to hear her sing it.
Yeah.
And that's all. I just wanted to have a little rant about that.
No, send it out to the universe. It might show up. CBS, someone might be rooting around in CBS and find it.
Judy. No, Judy Lindsay.
And that about wraps up episode 2 of the Judy Garland Show.
Are you going to talk about the gifted child?
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry. I left it till the end, even though I think it was taped right at the beginning of the episode. But Judy and Jerry do a Share with the Child commercial, which I'm guessing was slotted in somewhere along the way, because we see it out of the running order, but I assume it was meant to be slotted in somewhere as an actual commercial. But it's a charity appeal, basically, that Judy and Jerry do for Christmas for children.
Yeah, it appears on the very beginning on the DVD, doesn't it?
It's right after the clapperboard at the beginning of the episode.
So I know when they released the DVDs, they did mess around with the order on some of them, like reinsert things where they should have been and things like that. But no, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cute. I just love at the end where she goes, okay, and walks off.
And for once, Jerry is being
normal.
Yeah. She's doing it, when she does this, when she talks. Classic Judy when she's talking on the Judy Garland Show. Can we just gift a child? That's just a little observation I made.
She does seem rather soft-spoken in that little segment, so maybe she was just talking quietly.
Possibly for the because of the subject matter. She didn't want to come in, give a gift to a child.
Got right.
Sorry.
That was awesome.
Annie would have done.
Yeah. No, he would have gone.
Yeah.
Any last final thoughts on episode 2 of the Judy Garland Show to sum us up?
The only thing I wanted to... Oh, sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
No, you go.
All right. Well, the only thing I wanted to mention, and I meant to mention this at the beginning when we were talking about the weeks leading up to it, but the one thing I wanted to mention is that it was around this time where Judy's late night phone calls and so on was becoming, very real. And the one thing that I loved in Rainbow's End was how George Slatter explained those. How, at the end of the episode, Judy is so wound up after, obviously she's got so much adrenaline. She, feeds off the audience reactions. She's so excited. She's ready to go. And at the end of the episode, everybody's gone. And she has to go home basically to an empty house because Sid's already gone. And this is why the late night phone calls started. She needed somebody to help her wind down. She needed to get that energy out. And she would call George Slatter, Bob Wynn, Mike Dan, all kinds of different people. And what they usually wound up doing was going over to her house. They loved to play poker. I guess Judy was a good poker player. I could see that. But I love how George Slatter puts it in Rainbow's End, where I have to pull it out because I really like what he says about it. Hang on, here we go. I have it all bookmarked. See, I'm ready to go. He says, we demand heroes, we make them, Schlatter says with great emotion. We love them, we adore them, and once we make them a hero, we are just as eager to tear them down. We build them into something they can never perpetuate, and then we're surprised when they don't measure up to all the things we expect of them. Judy was sometimes exasperating, but she was wonderful. It was all worth what you got. She loved to laugh. She loved people. She was funny. She was very special. My relationship with her was very special. She gave to us more than she took, and she took a lot.
Because you hear so much about people like going, oh, it was such a hassle, late night phone calls. I mean, I wouldn't like that. I like my sleep, even though I am better of a night than of a morning. But you hear about the drama, but often she just talk, or as you said, she played poker. She just wanted company. It wasn't drama.
Which
And
I mean, you can understand. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. I should say, after we've done our podcast, I'm someone who's constantly tired and I can sleep well, but after we've done our podcast, I'm quite high on adrenaline and I struggle to wind down of a night. And I when I used to dance perform on stage, I completely understand that. So she is like, she's given everything to the audience. Someone else said it as well, might have been George Slatter again, said they all go home after having a wonderful evening. They go to bed, go to the family, go to bed. She's still all like,
yeah.
And I agree, Sarah, 100%, because I did shows and stuff before, and there is no high. I have always said no drug will give you a high that you get walking out on stage at the end of a performance, the audience is clapping. And if have been working for the preceding 2 hours by yourself, entertaining that audience, like, you are going to be like up there. It's and she wasn't going to be the type of person to go home and have a cup of hot cocoa and tuck herself up into bed, like,
No, not at all. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it purely for Judy. She is at her best. There's a lot of before I saw the Judy Garland show, there was a lot of talk that her voice wasn't quite the same as it was at Carnegie Hall, Wizard of Oz days. There's parts of the Judy Garland show, especially in these first ones, where I actually prefer the voice to the early 60s voice because I kind of like it a little bit deeper. But I think she's in just as good a form in this as she is in like a Carnegie Hall days.
I agree.
But fast forward, the parts that Judy isn't in.
The what?
You still fast forward. I said, but fast forward the parts Judy isn't in.
Oh yeah.
You still fast forward. You don't fast forward these days, do you? You skip.
Slow.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like, watch the episode if you've not seen it, but just watch Judy's segments. Skip pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're going to say thank you very much for watching another episode of the Garland Gab. If you've enjoyed, please don't forget to like and subscribe. We're also now on Spotify. Have we got any other housekeeping to say? That's it, isn't it?
Just that the next time.
Ring the bell.
And the next time. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, can I just add, if people carry on to watch the end of this, most of our views come from people who aren't subscribed. I've noticed, we always have a little peek, into the studio. So if you are watching and enjoying, please subscribe.
We really would appreciate it. We really would.
But even if you don't, thank you for watching.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And the next time you see us, we'll be jumping into the Wizard of Oz, our biggest podcast yet. So you definitely want to be subscribed for that.
Yeah.
Fab. Okay, well, we'll see everybody soon for the next episode.
Bye.
Bye. Right.
That wasn't a bit
Bye.
awkward.
Fine.
It's fine. I quite enjoyed that.